Welcome to the Quotive Corner. Today's episode is for every parent, every teacher, every aunt, uncle, older sibling, mentor, or coach. Basically anyone who has ever had a younger person watching them, whether they knew it or not, which, if you think about it, is all of us. Children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. That's James Baldwin, one of the most important American writers of the 20th century. Born in Harlem in 1924, Baldwin grew up in poverty, was the eldest of 9 children, and became a preacher at 14 before leaving the church and eventually leaving the country entirely, spending years in Paris to gain enough distance from America to write honestly about it. His essays, collected in Notes of a Native Son, Nobody Knows My Name, and The Fire Next Time, are among the most clarifying and morally urgent pieces of writing in American literary history. This particular line first appeared in his essay, Fifth Avenue, Uptown, published in Esquire in 1960, and was later reprinted in Nobody Knows My Name. So, 2 halves, and the tension between them is everything. Children have never been very good at listening to their elders. Every parent who has ever repeated the same instruction 17 times before lunch is nodding right now. This is not a controversial observation. Children are selectively deaf in ways that are almost impressive. You can tell a child something clearly, calmly, repeatedly, with genuine patience and excellent reasoning, and watch it evaporate on contact. This is not a malfunction. It is, in some ways, developmentally appropriate. Children are forming their own sense of self and their own understanding of the world. Blind deference to authority isn't growth, it's compliance. And compliance is not the same thing as wisdom. But here is where Baldwin pivots, and where the quote earns its weight. But they have never failed to imitate them. Never failed. Not sometimes, not often, never. Baldwin isn't making a gentle observation here. He's making an absolute claim, and the absoluteness of it is deliberate, because what he's pointing at is something that operates below the level of instruction, below the level of conversation, below the level of what we consciously choose to transmit. Children are not primarily learning from what we tell them. They are learning from what we do, how we treat people, what we tolerate, what we laugh at, how we respond when things go wrong, and what we reveal about ourselves when we think no one important is watching. And someone important is always watching. This is where Baldwin's observation cuts deepest, because most adults, when they think about raising or influencing children, think in terms of instruction. What are we teaching them? What are we telling them? What values are we communicating? Those are real questions and they matter. But Baldwin is saying the primary channel isn't verbal. It's behavioral. It's the 10,000 small moments in an ordinary week where children observe how an adult actually navigates the world. How do you talk about people you disagree with when they're not in the room? How do you handle frustration? Do you take responsibility when you make a mistake, or do you find someone else to blame? Do you treat the waiter with the same respect you treat your boss? Do you follow the rules you expect others to follow? Do you show up when it's inconvenient? Are you honest when honesty costs something? Children are collecting data on all of it, constantly, without announcing it. And then, years later, sometimes decades later, they reproduce it in their own relationships, their own parenting, their own leadership, often without even recognizing where it came from. Coach John Wooden told us to be more concerned with character than reputation. That character is what you actually are, and reputation is what others think you are. Baldwin is pointing at the mechanism by which character gets transmitted across generations. Children don't inherit your reputation. They inherit your character, not your stated values, your demonstrated ones. The gap between what you say and what you do is exactly where imitation takes root, and children, whatever their apparent inattention, are exquisitely sensitive to that gap. In a prior episode, we noted that Tolstoy gave us the observation that everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. Baldwin is making the parenting version of that same argument. You cannot parent, or mentor, or lead, or teach from the outside in. The work has to start on the inside, not because children are grading you, but because they are absorbing you, whether you intend it or not. There's also something here about the generational transmission of both wisdom and damage. The patterns that show up in families across generations, the communication styles, the emotional regulation habits, the relationship dynamics, the ways people handle conflict or love or grief, rarely arrive from thin air. They were modeled, they were imitated, they became the blueprint, and then they became the default, and eventually they became invisible, just the way things are done, until someone pauses long enough to examine where the pattern came from and whether it's worth keeping. Rita Mae Brown observed that a mistake repeated more than once is a choice. At the generational level, an imitated pattern repeated across generations is also a choice, one that nobody consciously made, because nobody stopped to look. Baldwin is implicitly asking us to look. Now, the honest counterpoint, because this show doesn't skip it. Imitation isn't the whole story of how children develop. Children are not simply mirrors. They bring their own temperament, their own experiences, their own interpretive lens to everything they observe. Two children raised in the same household by the same parents can emerge as remarkably different people. Imitation is powerful, but it isn't destiny. And placing the full weight of every adult outcome on what a child observed in their formative years can slide into a kind of determinism that removes individual agency from the picture entirely. Baldwin wasn't making a fatalistic argument. He was making a responsibility argument. The point isn't that children are helpless products of what they witnessed. The point is that what they witness matters enormously, and that adults who want to influence children for the better need to start by examining what they're actually modeling, not just what they're saying. And here's the quietly hopeful implication in the quote, if you let it be one. If imitation is that powerful, if children never fail at it, then the positive things you model are being absorbed just as thoroughly as the negative ones. The parent who reads voraciously, or repairs things with patience, or apologizes sincerely, or returns to the table after conflict with warmth and accountability, those behaviors are going somewhere too. They're being filed away. They're becoming part of the blueprint. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be present. And you have to be real, because children, whatever their apparent inattention, are very good at detecting the difference. Baldwin understood this from the inside. He wrote about his own stepfather, a man whose bitterness and rage left deep marks, and whose fear and pain Baldwin came to understand only in retrospect, as an adult trying to make sense of what he had absorbed. That understanding didn't excuse anything, but it explained the mechanism, and understanding the mechanism is the first step toward interrupting it. Thanks for spending a few minutes here at the Quotive Corner. If this one made you think about what you're currently modeling for the people who are watching you, whether they're your children, your students, or anyone else who has you in their orbit, perhaps think about that a little more. They may not be listening, but they're watching everything. And while you're thinking about that, think about this. Wisdom isn't in the quote, it's in the reflection. I'll see you in the next episode.